comment to submit it. It's not going to be happening later. Later, you're going to have a place where to submit it. So thanks for being in. Here is the lesson 1 create, which simply refers what you're going to be doing in the lab. Okay, so this is the scene setup. There are 4 tiny little cars. You just want them to come from the left side here to the right side, and simply to make them go at different speeds and rates. So basically, it teaches you and makes you practice and explore how to achieve this in a very simplistic way. So don't overcomplicate, don't overkey, and don't underkey. We're going to go over it. Try to practice maybe manipulating the car by changing your position in a perspective window, but also see and explore what happens when you change the values in the ground editor by moving the point and changing the curves. Okay, so we will talk more now about that for the rest of the lecture. Okay. I do, guys, this is a 300 level course. I do have some expectations from you guys. You shouldn't be held in what you're doing. You need to show some kind of initiative, even if it's just asking questions or have something clarified. It's not mine or the lab instructor's job to tell you every single instance of what you've done wrong or what you didn't do. Stuff like this. It's a part of your work to follow directions and do the best you can. You will be making mistakes, you will be forgetting things, but I would like to see what are you capable of. If you rely on, I'm just going to do whatever I remember in the class without taking any notes, and then go to the lab instructor asking, is this good enough? That's not really a question, guys. Lab instructor's job is not to tell you if something is good enough. They are there to help you with a specific problem or issue. Okay, so when you ask for questions, try to have a specific question, like I don't know how to key, or how did you create this, or what is the setting here? Just coming and asking, is this good enough, or give me feedback. It just means that you're expecting the lab instructors to do thinking for you. That makes sense, guys? I hope I'm not sounding too sharp here. This is a college or university. Because when you work in production, you will not have somebody that you're going to go and every 5 minutes ask, is this good? So you need to be kind of learning to making decisions on your own, which is not easy. Okay, so well, let's start with the settings. So if you want to follow as I'm demonstrating, feel free to do so, or just take notes, something that will help you remember. When you're taking notes, there's a little art to it, which is lost. Don't try to write every single word I say. Write little reminders of what will make you remember what was said, if that makes any sense. Or write down the numbers or something that, okay? If you try to write every single word I say, you will never be able to follow the lecture. There are some students who, I had students a couple months ago that said, oh, I cannot take notes and listen to you lecture. I cannot help you with that. I do repeat things often, and I do always ask the questions. So many things that we're going to go over today, I'm going to repeat the next lecture, next month. Okay, so when you open a file, most of you, interesting, you open it in 16, you open it in 18. while we're waiting for this to open, you guys have any questions? No? Comments? Concerns? Where will the dinner break be? You guys are, by the book, I believe, assigned 10 minutes for each hour that you are of a lecture and lab. So basically, for the 2-hour lecture, you are entitled for 20-minute break, which I give at the end of the lecture. So it would be, I try to finish my lectures if possible. So they're starting at 1, we get 2:40-ish. Usually I go a few minutes over. So you get the break between the lecture and lab. You get 20-minute break at that time. And there is a 6-hour lab, which you will talk to Darko and the lab instructors, and they will decide, talking with you, what works best. Okay. So usually, I believe what they do is they have 2 hours of the lab, then they have 1 hour break, and then the rest of the class. But I do kind of let that decision about specific lab breaks decide you talking with the lab instructors. So I'm not making the decision. Okay, so you guys ready for the settings? So try to, if possible, open up your Maya. At this point, you don't even have to have the car in there. Just going over the basic settings. Okay, so on the top, we have the group of a bunch of blue icons. Okay, I hope you know already what they mean. If not, this is what's right now enabled for you to select in the scene. So if I marquee select, I'm selecting everything. Joints, faces, vertices, selection curves. Okay. So when you animate, you do not need to select everything. We need only to select the selection curves or the object that we animate if it's not rigged well. So our 4 little cars, they don't have a selection curve. So to select the to animate the car race, you're going to have to click on a car. Here. In this case, this car has a selection curve. See that big curve around it? So this car, I would click on this curve, press either W or E to translate or rotate. So then by using those arrows or the curves, I would manipulate the car position. So when you select something, in this case the selection curve, it gives you the keyable attributes here in the channel box editor. Okay. I hope you know what's channel box editor from your other full set classes, modeling class or shading and lighting. Okay. And we would key this car's position by left mouse clicking and kind of selecting the translate and X attributes, and I'm clicking on the name, not on the number values. And then right mouse clicking, and then there is the key selected on that floating menu or popping menu. So when I click on key selected, I have keyed the position of this car. Okay. Now, little racing cars, you would click on the car itself, and then it's going to give you 1 or 2 attributes, and then again you would select those, and then right mouse click, and then key selected. Create a key. Okay, so there's a danger if you leave all of those elements being possible to select, you can break the rig. So what I'm suggesting is that you enable selection of everything except what you're going to use to move your character. there is like a little white triangle to the left of this group of the blue keys. So if you click on it, you can click on all objects off, and then click, in this case, select curve objects. So now I can click everything else, but only thing I can select are the selection curves. For the little cars, only thing you would enable would be the select surface objects. So now you can actually select, you could select the cars, which this rig is not enabled to do. So I'm going to show you that later. Okay, so this will minimize possibility of errors. So you cannot key joints and delete them.
And sorry, one more time, where is that selection option? You're in my 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't
Oh, okay. So it's possible that some of you guys are not in the animation workspace. So if you go to the left top corner of your window, make sure to switch to animation. Okay, so that will give you a proper set of the animation menu. You did find though where to find the
I found it. What's the name of it again though? Sorry.
Name of the what you want to have selected?
The rig, so I don't break the rig, the option. Snap curves.
So when you hover over this icon, it's going to select curve objects.
Yep.
And that's the one that you, in this case, when you have a normal rig, that's what you want to have selected.
Okay.
If you don't have curves, then you would have to select the one that's to the right of it. So you can select. So really, 99% you're using these select curve objects, and then just in rare occasions, something is not rigged, but you want to have it moving, then you would click on the object itself. Okay, good. Any more questions? Don't be shy. You guys should know how to turn around your rig from your modeling class, right? You know how to zoom in and zoom out? You all have that working? When you open your scene, guys, I'm interested. Did it show you just one perspective window, or you have actually seen the three windows? Three windows? Okay. So when the scene is pre-made with three windows, then it opens all three of them. But if you don't have it created, then it might not work for you. So part of the animation workflow that we teach and ask students to use while they're in the class is using the three-window workspace. So you can go now to Panels, Perspective, and there shows you some cameras in this case are created. Sometimes they will not be created for you, and you will have to create it. Okay, so if it happens that you need to have three-window workspace and you cannot one that's made for you, you need to create it. Once you create one, you can save it, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, so how to create three-window workspace? You go. Can you follow my cursor in this area? So it's here on this menu of the window. So perspective window. You know that if I press the space bar, I can be jumping. Zooming in a specific window or from the three-window workspace. So if you don't have three-window workspace, you would go to Panels, Layouts, and then find Three Pans Split Top. So that should give you three windows in there. I create the perspective window, the largest, because that's the one I'm posing the poses. So that's the ordinary perspective window. I usually use the window to the right to create a render cam, which is the camera that you're working for. So you find the staging of your scene and you lock it, so you have something to work to. So don't explore what you're working for. And again, if you go to panel's perspective, you see there is, in this scene that I gave you, there is another camera already created, and it's called the work cam. Okay, so if I go to panel's perspective and I click on the work cam, brings that camera here in this window. Okay, so if I want to change the attributes of this camera, I need to select it. So here, there is a little icon that looks like a camera. If I click on it, I have selected this camera that's active. And I'm going to change this name from work cam into the render cam, because I prefer that name. So simply type in, press enter. So now you have your perspective camera and you have a render cam. Okay. Later, don't worry about doing this tonight, but later we will also lock this camera and we're going to set up this black frame. I'm going to show you how to do this, but if you don't do it, you won't get any deduction. So if I go to the view menu and then go down to camera settings, okay, and then gives me this pop-up window. If I click on the empty top of this pop-up window, it kind of leaves it out. Okay, so you want to have the resolution gate checked, and also to make it sure that it displays correctly, even if the resolution gate is checked, click once on no gate and go back on resolution gate. You see that it changes the size of this. Okay, so you might not see anything, or you might see something slightly differently depending on your render settings, which will go next. You also want to go here and check the save action and save title. We would like to see them just to make you aware of the area that you want to avoid when you're posing your character. Okay? If you would render this, it would not show the save action and save title if you render the animation. So this is just to raise the awareness of, okay, this, it's better not to do anything important in this area. I would never say never, but if the character is doing something, communicating the pain he's in, you would not want him to be cut off by the frame. The bottom window, so the elongated one, I would like you guys to have the graph editor. If you're lucky, it's going to already show the graph editor window. If it's not showing it, please go to the Panels tab or menu of the graph editor window. So click on it and find Panel. So Panels and then Panel, and look for the graph editor. And I click on it. That should bring the graph editor here. And it will happen unless your graph editor is cut out on its own somewhere else as an independent window. So you would have to close it first. Okay, so when you have 3 windows workspace together with a channel box editor. Oh, I also remind on the top right side, the workspace, I recommend put it on Maya Classic. Okay? Because this is the most efficient workflow for me. Okay? I'm not going to insist and check if you did it. If you prefer something else, you can. But this will give you the simple 3-window workspace with a channel box editor. So now, when you get your scene to this point, the workspace to this point, so you have 3 workspaces you would want to save them. I'm going to show how to do that next time. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. So you don't have too many preferences details today. Okay. So if you were creating a playlist of your animation for this scene, you would only have open your render cam, and then you would go to the timeline. Timeline is this area here. So you go there, right mouse click, and it gives you option to playlist. Before we playlist, we need to use a few more settings. Okay, I'm gonna save those settings also today and then repeat them next time in case something goes wrong. So if you don't get it right this time, don't worry. Give it a try, but don't panic. Okay, so before we do the playlist settings, we need to check the render settings. Okay, so where are my render settings? That's a nuisance of working in new Maya. There you are. It was just hidden because of the resolution. My window was kind of squashed. Okay, so you see on the top right corner, there's a little group of icons related to rendering, which you should know from shading and lighting class. So there is the icon of that image of the little cutboard with a little blue gear. When you click on that, it gives you the render settings. I recommend Maya software. So render using Maya software, although I don't really care what you have there because you're not rendering. You're just setting up the size of the video. Okay, so in this class at the end, you'll be asked to render one frame from your scene. And I've been told by students that they got good results by using Maya software. That's the only reason why. Okay, so make sure that you are in Common tab. Okay, and kind of scroll down to the renderable camera. So what you want to do is, if needed, change the renderable camera to the newly created render cam. If you don't have any yet, just use what you have. But in the future, we're going to use the render cam. Okay? And then set up the size to those specific numbers I'm going to give you here. Okay? Let's try 960 width and height, make it 540. So you guys that are repeating your class, there's a different numbers. Okay, so we used to use a different size, and now we kind of got a request to get the students used to high definition, so we're using a higher values. Okay, so we're repeating 960 times 540. Okay, if you don't get it right today, don't worry. Okay, just give it a try. So close it. When you do this, then you're going to see, most likely, it's going to say here on the top of the work window, it's going to say 960 by 540. And you will see that if you have the resolution gauge turned on, the proportions of it will change immediately as you type in the numbers. Okay, that makes sense? Do you need to repeat something or say something slower?
Could you just go over where the resolution gate is one more time? I know that it's a tab we have to click and you pull the window out.
There are two ways to access the resolution gauge. You can go to View, Camera Settings. So there is a resolution gauge. So by default, it's usually no gauge. So click the resolution gauge to turn it on. And the other way is going to the Attribute Editor. So you select your camera, go to the Attribute Editor, which is on the right top corner. And it's the icon that looks to me like 3 screwdrivers laying next to each other. So you open the Attribute Editor there, scroll down to the display options. And here you would check the box that says display resolution, which might be done by default, but you need to check the display gate mask. You will also, most often, when you do this for the first time, there's two sliders here. For the gate mask opacity, you put the gate mask opacity all the way to the right, to the value of 1, which makes it non-transparent. And the bottom one, gate mask color, you're going to have to move it to the left, all the way to the left to make it black. And as you can see, you can also check the display save action and save title here as well. More questions? Still 4 already. Okay, we need to speed up here a bit. So later, we will learn how to save our 3-window workspace. Or you want to do it now or not? I'm giving you option, guys. Okay. It's a little bit technical. I don't want to throw too much settings today, the first day. Okay, so now when we create our 3-window workspace, we'll actually have to save it and create a shortcut here. So we will click on one of those 2 icons, and we will get our 3 windows there for us, the way they should be. Okay, a few more settings though before we jump in onto the animating part. Okay, so we want to go to the Maya preferences, which I believe you can go to somewhere here on top, which I never do, so I can't remember. But the way I get the preferences, I go to the bottom right corner, and there should be an icon of a little orange man running away from the gear. Okay, so when you click on it, opens the Maya preferences. Were you guys able to find your preferences? Okay, so there are a couple of things here that we want to set up in a certain way. I'm kind of going from the bottom up here. I'm going to start with undo. So if you want finite or finite number of undos, type in at least a couple of hundred, 200 something, 300 something. That's for if you have a laptop with very bad processor that crashes constantly. Most of the time, just checking the infinite box should cause no problems. Okay. So then I'm going one up option here to time slider. So time slider, find the playback and then playback speed. It should say 24 frames times 1. If you have older Maya, it's just 24 frames per second. If it's not going to give you the option to do 24 frames per second, go to the other speed and type in number 24 in there and press enter. That should change it. Okay, so we are working as you did, same timing as you did in the 2D animation, 24 frames per second. That means whatever plays in a video for 1 second is actually going through 24 frames to do so. Okay, so let's see. So we're going up to the animation settings. And I'm going to ask you to find tangents. Check the weighted tangents box if it's not checked. and set the default out. So only the default out tangent, make it stepped. Okay, and this is not really that important for the first assignment, but later I'm gonna insist on you creating your poses and working a step. So if you do it now, you don't have to worry about it later. Okay, so going a little bit more forward here, and let's just check a few more things here. One of the reasons that I don't like Maya 2018 is that it does not show the view cube, even if it gives you the option to show it. Okay, so view cube is good for fast switching from the orthographic views, which I don't understand why they took it out, but okay, so those are the preferences that I would like you to work with. Okay, so now we can start animating if you have no questions. There's one question back there, yes?
I have no questions because
You cannot select the what? How?
I know
Go to the top and let's see what you've enabled first.
So it's able to pick up from that far?
more.
It's able to pick up his voice from that far?
Show.
I believe so, yeah. Oh, hey, did you plan on lunch from home or are you planning on eating somewhere? Like, when we actually have lunch? You didn't bring anything? Dude, I'm going to McDonald's. Wanna go?
Make it a couple of hundred or make it infinite. Either click on
Cool,
infinite
cool.
or
Unless we had another place
make
in
it,
mind.
300. Oh, there is one thing I do want to show you how to create a video here now. So we did set up the size of the video in the render settings. So now if I create a video, I want to have only this window open. I would go to the timeline and click on the play blast. So now this has created a video of a certain size. So you guys will still have some problems. There's one step that we need to do to make sure that the playblast size is correct. Okay, so that's the step we're doing. So we're doing the playblast settings now. So bring your cursor to the timeline. Okay, timeline is this. Right mouse click. Okay, so there's the menu. So rather than clicking on playblast, go to the right of the playblast to the checkbox and click on it. So this gives you the playblast options. Are you guys able to do this? Am I going too fast?
No, I got it.
So please, if you can keep AV Foundation, you do need to have the encoding H.264, and you have to change the display size. By default, it says from window. Okay, so it should not say from window, it should say from render settings. So that needs to be changed. Okay. So you're telling whatever the numbers we put in the render settings, you're telling it use those. Okay. Please change the scale from 0.5 to 1 if needed. And if you don't know where your playblasts are being saved when you create a playblast, it might be good to create a folder. So if you click Save to File and kind of navigate to the place where you want to find your playblasts anytime they're created. Okay, I don't need it. I know I can find my playblasts. I know where they are. But for you guys, if you're just learning and cannot find your playlist and you need to submit one, now create a place where you're going to look for it. Go look for it. So create a folder, name it a certain way, and then navigate to it and tell it, okay, save it to the file with this name in this folder. As far as the naming goes, I recommend use your last name, first name, because that's the common beginning of each project's name. So last name, first name, class, month, stuff like this. Okay, so this is optional. I'm not going to create one because. So now, when I have those settings done, now I can just right mouse click in a timeline and click on play blast. It creates a correct size of the video, hopefully, which again it plays 1 second, so it plays the length
Do you apply?
of your timeline.
Like when you do it, do you
It's
apply?
a
Do you
timeline,
They
so it
didn't
starts
do
at
it
frame
before
1,
we
and in this case it ends at 24.
I think you
Okay. So we do want to change. So our scene's length will be varying from project to project. And we use those two windows to change the length of the scene. Okay? The right one tells you the total length of the scene, and this one shows you how much of the total you're actually looking at. In this case, we're looking at 34 frames out of 48. That makes sense? This also tells you the same thing, this slider here. So we have 1 to 34, and that's the animation which can be extended to 48 frames. This tells you the beginning of the scene. Please make it frame 1. Because the first frame is the first one. Number 1 is not the 0. Okay, so let me show you. So if I go to this slider, you see how I can, right, clicking, left mouse clicking in, on this little gray box, I can extend, how much of the timeline I'm actually having active. I can also, by typing different numbers, I can extend and do the same thing. So this helps us to focus on different areas of the scene when and if needed. Oh, go ahead.
When animating, do you do it in like large quantities for the filming, or is it always just done in small chunks?
I would say use, you create your own workflow, what works for you. I do like to work as much as I can with the whole length of the scene, especially when I'm blocking out the scene, because I'm trying to establish the scene from beginning to the end. So when I do the main key poses, I would work with the whole scene. But then when I start adding stations, breakdowns, going into detail, cleaning something, then I would zoom in on just one area, so I can, really not get bothered with anything else. I can make this one area nicer and smoother and cleaner. So there's no specific rule about it. It's really hard if you have a very long scene and lots of keys. It's really hard to work and see your keys in a timeline. If you look at the whole scene, yes.
Is there a specific place you have to right click on timeline to play blast? Because I've tried it and crashed.
Are you one of those lucky guys that crushes your mind?
He's not the only lucky one.
Same here.
Happened to me twice already.
Well, try and check if there is any update to my 18 that you can install. And there are some other steps that I can maybe try doing. I just need to find those instructions here.
Professor, I didn't even actually initiate a play blast. I just hit apply after setting all the play blast settings, and my mind crashed. What play blast? You're hitting apply. I know, but applying also play blast.
Yours is working good, right? Yeah. Okay, then we're good.
It's not the 18 problem.
No, I used 18 when I hit play bass. First time it
I
crashed.
hit apply too.
I forced quit and then tried it again. Same thing. It crashed again after play bass.
Do you have it today in the class, or talking about
Just today, just now. I just restarted my computer to see if that fixes it.
It's happened to me two
Okay.
times in 2018.
Sorry, say it again.
Happened the same thing twice right now.
You're also using 17 or 18?
18.
18? Okay, so I'm going to give you try to solution here. And if you don't resolve it, all I'm going to ask you is to, instead of a playlist when you submit in your work, submit the Maya file with a little text file saying that you're one of the students that cannot, the Maya crashes when you create the playlist. Okay? Because otherwise I do require Maya file in the playlist. So you guys are going to submit Maya file with a text file stating that you try to do the playlist but your Maya crashes. Because otherwise, I need you guys to at least give me that much. Yes.
Is this an issue with this particular Maya file, or am I not going to be able to play blast anything at all this month?
It seems like usually students figure out a way to work around it. At some point, it starts working. It just seems to be a problem, the first day problem, and then 99% of the students get it working. And last month I had one student who couldn't do it up to the half of the month. And eventually, she got it working. Here is something that I'm going to try to recommend you guys to do and see if this will help. So there's some steps here. So if you open the Maya preferences, okay, so ready guys? So Maya preferences, go to display, so click on the display settings, scroll down or go to viewport 2.0, and set the rendering engine to OpenGL Legacy if it's something different. You guys did do so far?
Yeah.
So did you have something else selected there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So make it OpenGL Legacy. So in some cases, doing only this helps. Okay, so if this doesn't help, let's see what other steps you can take here. Another step, if you are able, you can try changing the default viewport and see if it'll let you. I believe most of the time it won't even let you do anything.
And should we be using 2.0 and viewport?
If you can.
Okay.
Okay, and the most extreme step would be deleting your Maya preferences, which I'm not going to show how to do today because it's too complicated. But that will be the next step if this doesn't work. Okay, so if you try this, you still cannot create a playbus, send me a little text note saying, I gave it a try, it's not working.
That fixed it for me. It's just
So it's working now?
car's just not moving, probably because we haven't animated it yet.
Yes. Okay, so we have one success. I'm glad to hear that.
Did you say the scale should be at 1?
Scale?
The scale for the playback.
Yes. The playbus settings, yes.
Yeah, that, what you just had us do for 18, it works.
Works, okay.
Nope, doesn't.
So even changing to OpenGL Legacy still didn't work. Okay, well, just as I said, we'll take a look and see if there's anything else we can do about this. So don't worry about it too much. And sometimes you cannot say don't worry, it just happens, you worry about it. But we will look for the solutions, and again, if we cannot figure it out, as long as you notify me, you'll be fine. Okay, so 223. So let's really time to focus a little bit and say a few words for animating here. Okay, so the timeline and the graph editor, we're going to be using those often. Okay, so what the graph editor is, it's simply, as the name says, it's a graph. So this here simply is a two-direction graph that shows the relation between a movement or the value of movement changing through time. I hope I'm not insulting your intelligence, but just a basic idea. So movement compared or change of movement through the change of time. Starting, you can see the numbers, and if you don't see the numbers, go to the graph editor menu, view, and check the absolute view box. You can also press the number 1 if you have the graph editor window active. So click in the graph editor window and press 1. It should show you on the left side the number values. So it goes from starts at 0 at the center, goes positive, then negative, of course. So if you key something from frame 1, it's going to create a curve depending on the change of your keys. Okay, so one thing that I want to make sure that you guys understand is that based on the fact that this shows the value change to the time change, I want to stress out, if you have a straight curve and a bunch of keys keyed, that means that all of those keys have the same value and there's no change. There is no movement. That makes sense? When you have your curve go either up or down, that's when we have the movement. So in this area, there's no change of movement. Values stay the same. Then the values start changing. That is the movement. So just that much for now about what those curves mean. Here, regardless how many keys you key, if you didn't change anything, there will be no movement. So there is 3 axes in the 3D world. We have X, Y, and Z. If you're not sure where your axes are, look for this little icon in the perspective window. It tells you up and down is Y. It's going to tell you the left and right is X, and back and forward will be Z. It's going to be changing depending on your point of view. Okay. So around each of those 3 axes, you can either translate or rotate something on those axes, and that's each of those translation and rotation is going to have a curve in a graph editor that can be manipulated in the graph editor. Does that make a little bit sense or a lot of sense? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're going to keep working here and hopefully start practicing. So if you see this car, if you want to, the goal is just to move this car from point A and B, such as your lab assignment. You know, I need to tell Maya what to do and when. So Maya knows where this car is when the scene is opened, and it's usually at the center, and all the values are at their 0. So it's at the origin of the scene. Okay, but Maya does not know if something needs to move, when, where, and how. So that's the animator's job. Okay, so there are 2 things that you can possibly do with a character or an object. Either it's going to move or it's not going to move. So if it's not going to move, the values will not be changing. If it's moving, then the values are changing. So the easiest thing for me to animate is simply approach this as you're doing a puppet animation and take your character and move it from position A to position B with whatever change in the pose needs to happen, the key. Okay. If I want this car to stay in a place for a certain amount of time, and that is one of the requirements for your little car race. Your little cars that are racing, they need to be standing in a place for some time, waiting for the start signal. When they hear the start signal, then they will all react slightly different timing because somebody is old and cannot move really fast, and somebody is not paying attention. So one car will start going before the other, and stuff like this, and move faster and slower. So this is where you decide how long somebody is being held before they move. So you need to tell that to Maya. Okay, so here is a general rule of thumb in animation. Anything that you give 8 to 12 frames or less on the screen will feel like a movement. Anything that you give, any pose, when I say anything, I mean a pose is key. So any pose that you key on a screen for and give it more than 8 to 12 frames is going to start feeling as a whole or a very slow moving motion. Okay? So your key poses, where you hit the pose and hold the pose and gesture within it, you're holding this pose for a long time, you're going to give it 24 frames, 16 frames, depending on how long you're going to spend it on hold. If I'm constantly moving as I'm talking and doing something, none of those poses will have more than 8 to 12 frames. Does that make sense? Okay. So the movement has less screen time than a pose that you're holding. And just roughly, when you're not sure, that range 8 to 12 is a good point to start. So if you're not sure how to time your movement, simply say, well, Branko said it's good if I start giving each pose 8 frames, then I can adjust them later. Does that make sense? So at least it kind of gets you moving and gets you to the point when you can do adjustments to make it better. Okay, so on this logic, if I want to hold this car, based on what I say, this car needs to have at least 8 to 12 frames. 8 frames is barely a hold. Okay? So if you really want your audience to see something, you want to give it more than that. Okay? And also when a scene begins, usually the audience just simply misses what happens in the first 8 of frames. Okay? So 8 of frames is really that in-between position. Am I moving something or am I holding something? So based on my own logic, I have keyed the car position on frame 1. So the way I did it, well, let's just delete what I have here so I can do it again. Is you click on the selection curve if you have one, or you click on the car if you don't have selection curves. I went to the channel box editor. You can also key the scale, but really all we need is translations and rotations. Highlight and then find key selected and click on it. So this creates a key in timeline of frame 1, and you see there's a red line in the timeline. Okay, so now Maya knows that on frame 1 you want your cars to be at 0, 0, 0, translate X, Y, and Z. So Maya doesn't know how long you want to hold it. So you might want to have one car that you're going to hold only 8 frames, another car that you're going to hold 16 frames, third car 24 frames, and fourth car, 17 frames. So based on your decision, if I decide to hold this car for 12 frames, I might hold it till frame 12 or 13 to give it one more frame. I like odd numbers, so I like to, if I can put my keys on odd numbers, I'm going to do this. So let's say I'm going to hold this car till frame 13. So I click in timeline in frame 13 and go back again to the channel box editor, highlight the names and keys selected. So now I have told Maya, well, I want this car. I want this car to be in exactly the same place on frame 1 and frame 13. Does it make sense? I'm actually letting Maya know by keying, this is where I want this car to be on this and this frame. So on frame 1 to 13, my car does not move. I have keyed the same position. Okay, so let's say the requirement says the car needs to go to point B, and in this case, for me, is going to be getting the car out of the frame here. Okay. So I click on the selection curve, press W, which gives me the 3 arrows, and then I use the blue one, get the car to the position B. So if I only do this and forget to key, I'm going to lose the action that I've done. So if now you have to remember, go back to the channel box editor, highlight the attributes, and key selected. Okay, so you see the mistake I've done here, guys. I have moved my car forward in a wrong moment in time. So it's on my frame 13, where I wanted to hold the car in a place, I have actually moved it forward. So I did a mistake. No big deal. Press Z under your car, go back to what was the last thing you've done correctly. And important thing is, don't forget to move forward in the timeline, which simply means me clicking in a higher number in the timeline. So how much time does this car need to get from the where it starts to get out of the frame? And you never animate it, so you're not sure. So Branko said try giving it 8 to 12 frames when you're not sure. Make sense? So if I give this 12 frames, so it's the previous key is on 13, so 13 plus 12 is 25. So if I click on 25 and now do again the step, like moving the car to get out there, and then key position. Okay, so now I have actually moved this car forward. Make sense? Any questions so far? Okay, so now if I look at this, while I'm working in steps, what I'm gonna see as I play back. Car just disappears, right? So what to do about it? Well, go back to your 3-window workspace, or at least to get the graph editor window there. So you click on your curve or on the car. So what you have to do now is to learn how to switch from the outer tangents, from step tangents to outer tangents. Step tangent icon is here, looks like a little step. And here is the outer tangent that looks like the Chinese Asian pavilion with the letter A in it. So this is how you're gonna either not create images when you're in step. You are not creating images, and in outer tangents you're creating Maya creates images within your keys. Does that make sense? So when you're in step, it's like working in 2D. You do a drawing, another key, and then you take a picture of it, and then you give it each of those drawings 12 frames, 16 frames, 2 frames. And then you, as long as you don't have in-betweens, you're just seeing your keys. That's like working in step. When you switch to auto curves, is kind of, okay, I have added very even in-betweens. Okay. Maya doesn't do good breakdowns. Okay. So until you have your breakdowns, I would prefer you guys to build a habit of working in step and looking your animation in step. Does that make sense? Okay. It's okay to switch between those to check your animation, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to select this car, okay, and go to the graph editor, to the icon with the letter A, and click on it. Before I do this, you do have to make sure that you have selected everything that you have keyed. And this is easy because there's only one thing we have keyed. You do want to bring your cursor to the graph editor window and press F to make sure that you get all of those keys framed. F is for frame within the window. Okay, so now I'm clicking on the letter A and see what happens. The curve has changed. So now, before Maya was not in between here, but now it actually does in between. It creates this motion or values. Okay, so now when I look at this car, I'm actually going to see it drive it out. Yes?
Wait, how did he play it? How did he play it? What did he press? I
Key
did not
the
see that.
second position.
Cool. I think might be going a little bit too fast now, so it's alright.
It's my sunset marks.
Go speed racer. Go speed racer.
Okay, so the other requirement of your very first lab work is that the car needs to do little simple cartoony anticipation before it starts moving. Right now the car is frozen in place and just starts moving forward, like it's UFO. This is animation. We want to practice and always apply a simple principle such as anticipation, which is basically reflection of the laws of physics. Body in rest wants to keep resting. So you need to kind of prepare and get in the position to start moving before you can move. Okay? So a realistic car will not do the anticipation the way we're going to do it here as a cartoony drive back before it goes forward. But when you do start the car and put it in the gear, it does shake in a certain way, and you can actually see, if you watch a car, and tell this car is going to start moving, right? Would you agree with that? So even a car does not do the traditional anticipation, there still is something that gets it ready to start moving. We will do a simple anticipation. So where am I going to do that anticipation? Well, if I want the car to hold for 12 frames, it needs to happen after frame 13, but before it ends up in its second position, right? So somewhere in there, the car needs to anticipate. Of course, it's going to be closer or right after the hold. Okay, so I'm going to decide on very short anticipation, give it 4 frames, so 13 plus 4 is 17. So I'm going to click on frame 17, and this is where I want the car not to go forward, but actually go a little bit back in the anticipation. So since I'm in the auto curves, this car is moving forward on frame 17. To prevent it, I'm going to switch back to stepped. So now my car is not moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to take the car and press W and just move it a tiny bit back. So kind of cartoony anticipation back, and I'm going to key its positions. So now I have the car go back before it moves forward. So now if I switch to auto curves and see what this has done. I'm going to see the car little hold. Is this a little anticipation back? Okay, so yeah, you can say a realistic car would not do this, but it does practice and builds the habit of before you start moving from a static position, you need to anticipate. Okay, so there's another thing to stress out about doing this. By taking those 4 frames for the car to anticipate, I have actually stolen the time of the car driving out. So this car has less time to cover the same distance. So now this car is actually moving forward faster. Does that make sense? Okay, there are 2 ways you can change the speed of the car goes. You increase or decrease the distance, or you increase and decrease the time they have to cover the distance, or both of them. That kind of makes sense? Yeah. I can get from here to there at this speed, so it's the distance is the same, or I can get there at this speed. So I cover the same distance at different times. So first one has more time than the other. So, on the same note, if I have the fixed amount of time, I have 1 second to get a certain distance. I can get in 1 second that far. Or, if I try to get all the way to that wall in 1 second, I have to go much faster. Make sense? So those are the factors that affect speed of something moving on the screen. So what I'm telling you here is showing you the way how to adjust the timing. And I'm close to ending here, guys. I just do wanna, always every first day I go a little bit over the promised time of 2:40. I'm gonna give you a 20-minute break, I promise. I'm gonna steal it from the lab. Okay, so if I wanna like I create a certain timing and I look at it and I decide, well, this car is now going too fast. I want it to drive slower. What can I do? So you go, get your car, select it. Okay, so based on what I said here is, if I want this car to go slower, one thing I can do is basically, rather than get to position B on frame 25, what if it gets there in frame 35? That's going to make it move slower, right? So how to move the keys? You need to select everything. In this case, it's just one curve. Okay, if you hold on Shift and left mouse click, just click and let go, just slightly to the right of the key in the timeline, it gets selected in red. Then press and hold the middle mouse and simply drag your key to the time where you want it to be. So basically, I have delayed this car to get to the position B, so now this car will drive slower. Make sense? This is what you're going to play with when you're creating different speed for your car. You cannot really change much of how far they move because they all start the same beginning and end at the same ending, but you can change how much time they have to get. Okay, so there is one final thing here. Okay, so this, when you place those keys, will vary from one car to the other in your lab assignment. Okay, so what we have here is Maya deciding the movement of the car, and really there's only one movement here, and it's in movement forward in the translate Z. Okay, so you see the names when you select that curve, it gives you all the attributes here in the graph editor list. And here, when you press F, you're seeing everything, X, Y, and Z, translations and rotations. One thing that really changes is the translate Z. So if I want to focus on it, I need to bring my cursor to the word translate Z and click on it. So now I'm seeing nothing else except the Z translation. So now it's easier to work with it. Okay, so what I want you to understand, guys, is, you see, when those first two keys have value of 0, you see the number 0 here. That means the car is at the starting position and it's not moving. Then this key goes a little bit down in negative values. That's the backwards motion. And then the values go up, positive, and it's roughly about 60. That's the forward motion. So this curve represents station back. And also, you see how the change of the angle, there's a slope in smoothing the curve. That means that the speeds, that there's a slow out, it speeds up gradually, it's a constant speed, and it starts slowing down before it stops. So Maya auto curves, they try to slow down and speed up the movement for us. As an animator, I want you to control that yourself by creating breakdowns and slow in and slow out keys. For this assignment, I'm going to just ask you to create at least one breakdown that kind of controls, again, the speed of the car. So now this is what Maya offers. My logic is I want to create better animators than what Maya can do. So I want to create a breakdown that further defines and controls the movement. So I can use Maya in between as my starting point for that breakdown. So if I'm scrolling, that means holding the left mouse and moving left and right, I can see the movement. So I can choose any of those points here. So let's say I randomly decided I'm going to create a breakdown of frame 25, which I'm going to further manipulate and control the speed of the car and create more of a slowdown. I want my car to move initially fast and then slow down, kind of drive slowly before it comes to a complete stop. So I'm going to use that key to try to achieve this. I can always, again, click in a certain point in timeline and then key selected, If you want to keep working outer curves, remember to switch back. So now I actually have a key that kind of controls car motion at a certain point. So the goal of what I'm trying to do and show here is that by adding breakdowns, you can further control the speed of the car. So right now this is relatively even movement. So as I said, I want this car to move initially really fast and then spend all this time being kind of moving slowly. So how to do this? By using this key in here. So if I use the left mouse and kind of mark key select this point and then hold down shift and press and hold the middle mouse, it's asking me, do I want to move up and down or left and right? I could do both of those. But I really don't want to change moment in time. I just want to change the amount of the movement. I want this car to do much more movement in this same amount of time. So press and hold shift, and then press and hold middle mouse, and then start moving up. So you see, by doing this, I am moving the car forward. So now, that means that from frame 17, 25, car moves much faster because it's covering the larger distance. And then from frame 25 to 35, which is lots of time, just moves a little bit. Okay, so this creates a slower movement in one area and faster in the other. And that's, again, just the beginning of learning how to manipulate and control the time. You see that? So there's that little slowdown in the car. So this is kind of minimum, guys, of what I would like you to play with as you're creating your little car race animation. And let me just open up the car race so you can see what's there, because some of you might have already tried to do this and you got confused, like, what am I looking there? Okay, so when you open the scene, it might open here and you see this, and that's what you're looking for, or what your scene might open with could be this. Really, usually opens with this guy. Okay, so you don't have the wrong file. You have the correct file. The thing is that there are layers that let advanced students do more animation, while students who need to do the basic, they keep working on their basic animation. So you will finish the car animation by turning on the car layer and turning off the visibility of everything else. You know how to do this from modeling, right? You're gonna find a good place from which you can work. I would also set up and create that there is an exercise cam that I would use, get a good point of view, and I would name it a render cam. So that's gonna be the camera from which you're going to create the play blast, and this is on the left. You're going to have the camera on which you're working, or opposite if you prefer. I don't really care if your render cam is left or right. Okay, so here the cars are different. They don't have the selection curves. So to do the cars, you're going to have to enable the selection of the surface objects, and simply click on a car. So this gives you the translate Z of this car. And then you can now move this car back and forward, and right mouse click and key that attribute to get the car where it needs to be. That make sense? So everything else the same. You know, you're still gonna key how long it's standing, how much does it anticipate, when does it anticipate, how fast does it move, and how much does it slow down before it stops. Okay, I would recommend that keep the first three cars kind of doing very simple things. The fourth car, you can do a little bit more. You can actually add a little bit of rotation on the back wheel. So if you want your car to go really fast and go up, the front wheel go up in the air before it stops, you can do this. You can even have this last car, you can have it maybe jump off. Kind of do something weird and unexpected. Kind of have fun animating this if you can. For the all the other cars, basically I'm looking that move them all at different timing, explore the timing, achieve different speeds. If you can think of your cars as having different personality, as I said, one is very old, one is young and enthusiastic, one is a little girl who doesn't care about a race, and stuff like this. So one car can be just simply take a long time before it starts moving. It really doesn't, maybe jumps from point A to B, something like this. Okay. So all I just want to see that you guys explore and learn the basic timing manipulation and keying in Maya. This assignment is not about how successful it is. It's really just you exploring the workspace, keying, timing, solving any technical problems such as playbus not working or anything else. Okay, so as long as you submit a Maya file with cars moving, you're going to get an A for this assignment. It's going to get harder. I'm not going to grade everything like this, just the first one. If you don't submit anything, then of course you're going to get 0. I do expect a Maya file and the playbus zipped together and submitted with the correct naming. We are slowly warming up to doing it correctly, so again, don't worry, mistakes happen. We'll be starting with small deduction, and as we go and progress to the month, we'll expect more from you. And the projects get harder and also get graded harder as well. Okay, so my goal is to have you being able to participate in a portfolio class, at least at some very basic level. Any questions, guys? Lots of talking. You think I can do this? What? Do you have questions or?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Yeah, I missed some of the steps, like when you had like moved the car back and then you had it go forward, and then when you had extended the time when it kind of went out.
But move the keys?
Yeah.
Let's show again. How did I do that?
You got an answer.
Let's key one car here from scratch. So I'm gonna have this car in frame 1 in this position. I'm gonna key the beginning. I'm gonna hold it for 12 frames. So we're going frame 13. Key. So the length of the hold. So that much of the time, half of a second, car does not move. Then I'm gonna have it, and since I've never animated before, I'm gonna listen to Branko, and frame 25, I'm gonna key this car, get to the second position. So go, key selected. So now the car is keyed, holding and then coming here. I do want you to also have a little hold at the end, so I'm going to give it at least another 12 frames, and I can have another key for the hold. So 25 plus 12 will be what, 37? I'm kind of overdoing it here. So I can still key. So again, when it comes to stop, it's not going to move that much, and I'm going to end the scene with that frame. That makes sense? So I'm kind of holding the car before the scene ends. So we can see also the last pose as well as we can see the first one. Really, it will hold the same pose even if I didn't do the second key, but I do want to build a habit of having at least 2 keys defining a hold. Later with a character, we're going to turn it into a moving hold. Okay, so now I can, let's see how it moves. I can switch to the auto tangents, and this car will move. Okay, so now what I did with the car, I have changed I added the anticipation first. And to do this, I use the stepped, and I have moved the car a tiny bit back. Key it. So now the car goes forward, and I wanted it to do it a little bit slower. Okay, so I basically want to move the 2 keys at the end. I want to move them for 4 frames that I stole to do the anticipation. I want to move those 2 keys to the right. to give this pose enough time to get from point A to B. So the way I did it, before I moved only one key. I pressed the shift and then I left mouse clicked on a key and then I used the middle mouse and moved the key. So I can do it each of those keys individually and move them to the right. Or I can select both of them at once. If I hold shift, I can use the, I believe it doesn't matter if I use the middle mouse or left mouse. You can use any of them to catch both of the keys and then click in the center part of the selection and you can move both of the keys to the right at the same time. Does it answer your question? Was that the area or no? Or something else? Or was it when I added a breakdown?
That's
I'm going to finish the final step here also.
That's quite information.
If you can formulate a question, you can say it, but you do seem to be thinking about ask.
Yeah, it's just oh man, I was kind of hoping to get a little one-on-one really quickly because you went a little bit too fast. Sorry.
Okay, we can talk about that when I finish the lecture, or you can always ask lab instructors to help. Okay. And I'm getting close. I do want to give you a break now, guys. So really, I'm gonna give you a 20-minute break. So please be back at what is it now? 3:20. And then we're gonna call the first roll for the lab. We can talk during this break
Cool.
if you want to.
Cool.
Or if you want to take a break.
Oh no, I was hoping to get some assistance.
Sorry for going over a bit.
That's all right.
Again, when there's a lot of power, when I have lots of questions, good questions, then it takes a little more time.
So I already have it here because I went from 1 to 12 and then from 12 to 24. So when you kind of start to move it, the car does go forward, and that's basically where it ends.
Okay.
So afterwards, this is when you start to move it back to give it an anticipation.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of got lost, even though I was watching.
Okay. Let me show you what I did.
Okay, so
So basically, after this point, I wanted, rather than my car to going forward, I wanted to go a little bit back.
yeah, before it goes
Yeah,
forward.
before it goes forward. So that means that after this frame, I gave it only 4 frames. I went from,
So 12, that would be 16.
you can go to 16. So if you're going to 16, you want your car to be going a little bit back, not forward.
Okay.
The car is going forward because you're in the auto tangent. So switch to stepped.
So I
So
gotta
that car.
go there, hit that.
Okay. So now go to 16. The car will stay in a place.
Okay.
So go to 16. Move the car a little bit back and key it.
Okay, so I gotta just highlight. Oh,
Yeah, just
Wrong
highlight the
click.
names. Usually
okay.
translation and rotations and key
Key
selected.
selected.
So now your car should be going a little back before it goes forward.
Okay. And then if I go here and play it. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? Oh, wrong. Sorry. Okay, so I have to go to there and I have to. I think if I bring it back to 1 and.
You don't have to bring it back. It's going to play anything the length of your scene. So go click. This is going to move it to the beginning if you click here and then play back. So let me just see what happens. Okay, so let's see what is happening.
I notice every time I highlight and hit key selected, I only have 1 set. I don't know why I don't have multiple sets.
Let's extend the scene
Sure.
and let's switch to the auto curves. So let's see. Is that going to show us? So it's doing. It just looked weird because it wasn't stepped. So you see the car go stand in a place and go back, and then it disappears.
Okay, I'm hitting. Wait, do I have to hit this in order to? Wait, I'm hitting A.
So yeah, that you would make it move in betweens,
Okay.
and this one will be to go back and step. And those are the one we're going to be switching
Yeah. Oh.
back and forward. You need to select your car before you can switch back and forward.
Okay, so it's this that I'm gonna hit, correct?
What do you want to do now?
When you made it slow down a bit, you extended the graph. So
Okay, wait now.
when it was like red, here in the timeline.
Well, what I did is I moved this key to the right
Okay, so
to
you
give this motion. Okay, so what you're doing now, you are changing the car's forward motion. So
Oh,
you
I
move the
am?
car back by moving this down.
okay.
So it's not about the key moving up and down. It's actually about the keys moving left and right.
Okay.
Okay. When you do this, you have to make sure you select all. Okay. So
Okay.
click an empty space and just click the selection curve.
Click
Go
on
here
that.
with the cursor.
Okay.
Press F. And go now. Okay. So we want to give this car more time to move slower. That means we need to move this key to the right.
Okay, so click on that.
So hold on Shift.
Shift.
And click and let go.
Oh,
So now use the either middle mouse or left mouse, but you need to click in the center, those two.
these two arrows.
Press and hold and drag to the right.
Oh, okay, cool. I think Oh, okay. Now I see it. It's extending it. Nice.
Let go. So you would have to extend the scene to actually see what
Oh.
by the time.
Oh, so I have to pull this
You
out.
see now you're moving the.
Oh, snap. Okay.
So click on the gray area and just so the one stays at 1 and this
Now I
you
can
make it
see what's
longer.
happening.
So now.
Okay then.
So now you can try and see, make this window active and see how it, is this slow enough for you, or you want it slower, or is this too slow? And you,
No, that's good. Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to I'm trying to get close to what you had on screen. That's what I'm trying to do.
and the final thing is I have created another breakdown between
that was the.
anticipation and the.
I think that was the
point B.
final step that you that I actually missed.
Well, I can show you here. So
Oh, excellent. So let me just quickly.
select your car, get back the graph editor window.
Okay, so click here. Probably have to bring this to 1 then. Okay, so with that in place.
So basically, this is now where Maya is commanding how to move, and you want to take
okay.
over the command by creating a breakdown. So you have to decide anywhere in this point in time of your decision, you're going to create a breakdown. So
Okay.
make a decision. It could be half point or one
I
third
think
of time.
21 is a good breakdown.
21. So simply bring it there and press, key, select it simply to establish a key there.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna key selected as
Okay.
always.
You can switch to the auto curves if you want to keep working in there.
Oh.
So what I've done is, at first I only looked at the translate Z.
Yes, right here.
So-
Oh, translate Z. Translate Z.
So what I did is,
Okay.
by changing the value of this point, going from about 20, I moved it up higher to about 50. So now you would marquee select,
Okay.
marquee select, hold on Shift,
Shift.
and use the middle mouse to move up.
Oh wow.
So you see now you're moving the car forward. So that means earlier in time, the car has moved more.
Okay.
So now you create a sharper angle here, which means the faster movement, and here is closer to being leveled, which is slower movement.
Okay.
So now you have created, initially it goes fast, and then before it stops, it's kind of like has some time slowing down.
Okay. Excellent.
You can also slow this down by taking this point and move it more to the right. Just remember when you're doing something like this, don't forget all the other ones. Now I have only Translate Z selected. You need to select all of them.
Okay. So.
Just click an empty space and click on this again, and that selects
now
everything.
they're selected. Okay.
And if you press F, then you're sure that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So if you still want it slower,
Oh, all right.
okay. If you're moving the key, don't move just one. Then in that case, marquee select both of them on this frame and move them. So this is equivalent as doing the shift selecting of this and moving to the right.
Oh,
So there's just two ways of doing the same thing. I recommend do it in a timeline. So use the shift, press and hold shift,
Okay. So.
and click just slightly to the right of the key.
Shift. Click on this.
No, this key.
Oh,
That-
click on that.
So now you have selected those two keys. So now you can use the either middle mouse or left mouse and drag.
Shift.
Don't hold. Once you get it selected red, you don't need to hold shift anymore.
Okay, so let's
So
just
select the car again.
Okay, so Z back. Click on the car. Okay, cool.
Press and hold shift just to select that point.
Okay, so click here, shift.
One left mouse click.
Now I can
So-
do it.
So now use the middle mouse or left mouse to do this. So now you again slowing down the car
Oh, okay.
because you're giving it more time.
All right. Okay.
So it has more time to get from this point to this one.
Excellent. Excellent. And that's
If you wanted to speed it up, you would have to move the key to the left.
the reverse. Okay. Excellent. And that's the lesson. Okay. So it looks like I'm all caught up.
So what you would do when you do animate 4 little cars, you would vary those keys and to achieve
Okay.
different holds, different anticipations, different
Mm-hmm.
basic movement, and different slowdown and different stuff.
Okay. And so the submission. Didn't you say there's a few steps for the submission, or we basically went all over all those steps?
Read the project,
Yeah.
the lesson 1
Mhm.
create
Mhm.
part. That tells you there the naming requirements.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because in this folder I have the Maya project, and then I have the little video,
Mhm.
which I of course, I don't know why it's not. Okay, there
You
we
don't
go.
have to submit this. This is just the lesson practice.
Okay.
It's the little 4 cars.
But
You're going to be
um,
working in a lab.
yeah,
and so-
but the folder I'm gonna be turning in should look something like this, correct? Where it's both
Yeah, yeah.
the and
Yeah,
then
you
okay.
would.
Okay.
I never submitted a student project, so I don't know. Do you need to zip the file folder
I-
before you submit it, or
I think that's
is
usually
it-
how it's done in
yeah.
order to kind of condense it a bit, so it's not too hefty. Okay, cool.
This is gonna help with the tech side, at least kind of. One thing is my playblast worked all of a sudden. Good, but I think it might be because this is my ASCII instead of the binary kind of file. It might be that, but you know. The second thing is, there is a video package with the assignment. Is the idea to match the video
Okay.
or just to show that we understand?
It just shows
So
you
with
how to
that,
resolve. So it's
I'm gonna-
have to be the same.